Where's Mash? Hold on. 16th of September must be the annual solo Santokie episode, you know. One or two people around the world have been saying, when's the solo Santokie episode coming? I do one a year for those of you that have been following from day one. Today is the big day, you know, the solo Santokie episode. And in all seriousness, Mash had work commitments. So for the sake of content, because, you know, today was a big day for West Indies cricket, I said I will jump into the hot seat. I'll do the solo episode and keep that content going, which is why, as you can see, the banners, the layout is looking down bad at the moment. I don't even know why the writing's in blue. We ain't even got the socials at the top. It's down bad out here, but I'll get the admin out the way straight away. So follow us, you know, TikTok, X, Blue Sky, Facebook. As you can see the ticker saying at the bottom, patreon.com/CaribCricket. Keep the support going. It keeps the movement going. You know, number one cricket news channel in the Caribbean out here, CCP. You know how we do. So today's episode, as you'll guess from the title, is Cricket West Indies announced a 15-man squad to go to India. You know, mission impossible. Mash has already said, you know, on previous episodes, it don't matter who we pick at this point in time. We're going to take licks in India, is what it is. But, you know, all we can do at this point is hope, you know, that we can salvage some performances. For me, personally, if a man can go India and score a 50, if someone gets a half century, if Kevlon Anderson or Brandon King gets a half century, you know what, I'm not even being dramatic. I'm going to say that's up there with Lara hitting 400 against England, you know, because in the context of this team coming off a 27 all out against Australia, a 50 would be monumental. So, you know, out here, it's small victories for us West Indies fans. So without further ado, let me just load up. I would share the screen like Mash normally does, but technology down bad out here. So I'm just going to read it. So West Indies have announced a 15-man squad to go to India. It's 2 tests. It's part of the World Test Championship. Obviously, we're already 3-0 down in that World Test Championship following the hammer into the Aussies. And the test side to tour India, 15-man squad. We've got Roston Chase as captain, Jamal Warrican vice-captain, Kevlon Anderson coming in. Alec Afanase gets a recall. We'll touch on that later on in the episode. John Campbell, Tej Narayan Chanderpaul, Justin Graves, Shea Hope, Tevin Imlak, Alzari Joseph, Shamar Joseph, Brandon King, Anderson Phillip, Kari Pierre, and Jaden Seals. Now, for me, obviously, there's a few headlines in that. I'm going to start with Kari Pierre because he's coming in as a second spinner. Obviously, in Multan, we use Gudakesh Moti and Jamal Warrican to great effects to get that victory in Multan. However, interestingly enough, in this Cricket West Indies release, they've essentially said now this is an unusual one for me. So I'm going to read exactly what the press release says, so it's not misinterpreted and people can't say, "Oh, I'm misreading it." The selection group has opted to rest Gudakesh Moti for this Red Ball series, given the demands of the upcoming limited over schedule. The highlight being the ICC T20 World Cup in February, and March of next year. Now, let me get this straight. So, we're in a World Test Championship, 2 tests against India. If we're saying there's a big 3 in Test cricket, then India's one of them. So, it's a big Test series. Spin is obviously going to be important. We saw what happened when New Zealand went there last year. Even a man like Glenn Phillips, part-timer, was tearing down the wickets on a raging Turner. We don't know if this series is necessarily going to be a raging Turner. But either way, you're going to need 2 full-time spinners. I know Roston Chase off a spin, but 2 full-time specialist spinners you're going to need. Why have we chosen to rest Gudakesh Moti? I'm aware that there's limited overs series coming up. And obviously, Dan and Sammy, I'm sure, in the coaching team are looking at the World Cup qualification, right? We need to get points. We've got 3 ODIs coming up against Bangladesh, where Moti is definitely going to be impactful. And then 3 ODIs in New Zealand, and then a T20 World Cup in February and March. Now, first things out the way, let's get things out the way. It's comical for me. We're hyping up a tournament to rest a man that's 5 or 6 months away, February, March. How can we say the T20 World Cup is the main factor in Gudakesh Moti being rested when it's 5 or 6 months away? Do you know how mad that is? I don't think any other country would say that. Secondly, why are we not prioritizing? I get Gudakesh Moti playing limited overs cricket, and I completely support the idea that he should go to Bangladesh and play in that white ball series where he'll be effective. Is it necessary to have him go to New Zealand where spin's not going to be as effective? Could we get another spinner in for that, knowing how good Gudakesh Moti is at Test cricket? I don't know. I'm sure that, like I said, the think tank will come up with some sort of rationale behind it. But I just think, you know, we're going to India. It's a big test series for us, no matter what our chances are. It's a big test series. We're resting Gudakesh Moti. And it's interesting as well because Moti obviously didn't play against Australia, with Jamal Wowerton being elevated as the first choice spinner and vice captain of the side. And he hasn't played since that Multan test. Now, there's been murmurings about Moti, whether he's going to retire from Test cricket or whether he's done with Test cricket. I think this will just add fuel to the fire, because if Moti's not going to play in India, one of the few series where you're guaranteed to want to have a second spinner, is he going to play at all? Like next year when we're playing the home series, is Moti even going to play when it'll probably just be Jamal Wowerton there? So for me, the wide question is, if we're not picking Moti as the second specialist spinner, does that mean essentially Moti's career is done for the foreseeable future in terms of Test cricket? And when you factor that into the fact that he got an SAT 20 deal, one of the few West Indians to get a few sorry man, cold's got me down bad, but one of the few West Indians to get a SAT 20 deal. Is it more the case that Moti's looking more towards the franchise circuit and white ball cricket, and he's sort of emphasized that to Sammy, and Sammy going, okay, cool. We've got Carrie Pierre. He took 41 wickets in the regional season. We'll throw him into India. Now, for me, I'm not going to cuss out Carrie Pierre's selection. I think it's completely justified and a logical decision in Moti's absence. He was the leading wicket taker. I think it was him and Joshua Bishop were the top two. So Joshua Bishop's still young, learning his trade. So Carrie Pierre, as number one wicket taker in the regional season, completely deserved to get that pick. And I'm hoping he's effective. Obviously, he's inexperienced, but he's someone who's experienced on a regional circuit. We know he can. The thing for me is I don't know if he's got enough variations and can get enough turn as Moti would in India. But as the next best option, I'm supportive of Carrie Pierre. For me, it's not a controversial decision. And considering sort of where West Indies are, I think obviously we've got Jamal Wowerton and Roston Chase who we hope can be effective. To have Carrie Pierre as coming as well isn't a massive complaint for me. I'm just more bemused as to why sort of Gudakesh Moti wasn't included, and why it would have made more sense to me if they didn't even say anything. I would just assume Moti chose not to play, but to say they're resting him leaves me to think, what is going on here? So the next three changes are Alec Afanase comes in as well, and Tagenarine Chanderpaul. So just to clarify, I should have said this at the top of when I announced the squad. So Casey Carty and Craig Brathwaite are completely out of the squad. I know they got dropped for the 27 all out. They didn't play in that final test against Australia. They're completely out of the squad alongside Gudakesh Moti and Mikhail Louis as well. So those are sort of the four changes from the last squad. Or not changes because Moti was rested, but Mikhail Louis, Craig Brathwaite, Casey Carty are the three changes from the last squad, and then Gudakesh Moti has been rested. So let's get things out of the way firstly. Tagenarine Chanderpaul is it sort of highlights how down bad we are with when it comes to openers, because for me, Louis obviously was given a run, didn't do well, came back for the 27 all out with John Campbell, but weirdly enough, they didn't open because of injuries. It was Brandon King and Kevlin Anderson that ended up opening. And then we've gone back to, so we dropped Mikhail Louis, fair enough. But then we've gone back to Tagenarine Chanderpaul. Now that's really bemusing for me, because he didn't play in the West Indies A-team tour against South Africa, which was in like May or June, where you'd imagine Louis and Campbell played alongside Craig Brathwaite. Tage didn't play that, and he only played 3 first-class games for Guyana, and he didn't put any big scores. I don't think he scored a century or anything in those 3 games, off the top of my head. So why have we gone back to Tagenarine Chanderpaul? Is it just because we've literally got no other openers? I mean, Josh De Silva was the second highest run scorer in the regional team. Would it have not been worth just having him have a go, coming as opener? He's played at opener before in the regional season, and knowing his form, surely that's not a great option either, but surely it's a better option than Tagenarine Chanderpaul coming in. Tagenarine Chanderpaul, in the press release, they say he can play spin well along with Alec Afanase. We know how he can play, but he just hasn't proven. For me, he hasn't warranted a spot as West Indies opener against India. What are we basing it on? The 3 regional games he's played? And bearing in mind, he doesn't play white ball cricket, so he's not played any professional cricket. I know he might have been playing in America, like the minor league cricket and stuff, but in terms of like recorded professional matches, he's only played 3 this year. So this calendar year. So it's a bemusing one. So it looks like it's going to be John Campbell and Tagenarine Chanderpaul opening in India, and that doesn't fill me with any sort of confidence. So, boy, just thinking about this got me down bad coughing out here. So it's going to be John Campbell and Tej Chandimal, and Sammy added in the press release, the return of Tej Chandimal is to help transform our fortunes at the top of the order, given the recent struggles. Again, I'm just going to let that one infuse because what are we? Why are we under the impression Tej Chandimal is going to transform? Is a big word, you know. Transform is like flipping all stars coming back to the side after a hiatus or something. Tejan Chandimal, obviously, he scored that double century against Zimbabwe, but if you take that out, his average was probably below 25 in Test cricket. So I don't see why he's being seen to sort of transform the fortunes. Alec Afanese has been added for his strengths and qualities against spin bowling as well. So for me, I don't have any issues with Alec Afanese being picked. I think he was on the A-team tour. You know, he's kind of shown he's an adept batsman. But he's not been in recent form. Him and Kevin Hodge were obviously dropped earlier this year. But for me, there's enough quality. He's demonstrated enough quality, and more importantly, he's played enough cricket for me to say, okay, cool, let's bring Afanese in to strengthen that top order. So if we're looking at the run now, I would say essentially it's going to be John Campbell and Tej Chandimal opening, and then it's interesting whether they'll go with Kevlon Anderson and maybe or Alec Afanese at number 3. Depends on what they're gonna go for there, because you'd imagine King will come in at 4. So it could be a straight shoot out between Kevlon Anderson and Alec Afanese. I think because they've hyped up Alec Afanese as being quality against spin, they might go with him over Kevlon Anderson, which will be harsh on Anderson. But like we said on live show near the time, Kevlon Anderson's got that 27 all-out stain. You know, he came in, got a duck, done one of the worst reviews of all time, and got out. It'd be unfair on him. But I think I think Kevlon Anderson could be getting a drop for Alec Afanese here. So if we go back to the squad, and then so now we're looking at the all-rounders, another interesting position. So what was interesting was last week, Jason Holder, he came out and gave an interview. I think it was with the Indian Express, saying he still wants to play Test Indies cricket. The ball play Test cricket for West Indies. The ball's in West Indies court, and it's up to them what they want to do. So for me, that was a classic PR move. Going to Indian media, which is unusual for like someone like a Jason Holder to do, to state you're still ready to play Test cricket ahead of an India series. I'm guessing he was to put the feelers out and say, look, I'm Sammy selectors, I'm ready to come back to Test cricket. So I thought Jason Holder would get named in the squad, to be honest. He's done that. You know, he's got a reputation. Justin Graves injured in CPL. There were question marks over whether he'd appear. But Justin Graves is named in the squad as well. So you'd imagine Justin Graves is coming in as the all-rounder alongside Roston Chase. I haven't even touched on it, but King and Hope, you'd imagine, will be in that 11 without any doubt. Just because they're the big headliners. King done well in one of the tests against Australia, and you're not going to drop them after 2 tests. Despite that happening to Kevlon Anderson, but I think because Hope and King are quote unquote big names, I don't think they'll be getting a drop. Which means Tevin Imlach won't be keeping. You'd imagine Hope will keep. And now, interestingly enough, the bowler. So traditionally in India, right, you use one fast bowler off, maybe 2 at a stretch. But we've named the full pace attack in this squad. So we got Alzari Joseph, Shamar Joseph, Anderson Phillip, and Jaden Seals. I'd imagine they'll go initially for the first test with Jamal Warrican and Kari Pierre as the spinners. And then you'd imagine Jaden Seals and probably Shamar Joseph as the 2 frontline bowlers. Obviously in India with the new ball, Jaden Seals, I'm hoping Jaden Seals can be effective. I think we saw with New Zealand, it was Will O'Rourke and Matt Henry do bits with the new ball in the early over. So you're hoping a Jaden Seals in particular can do well despite India not being conducive to pace. As much as we think, who knows what type of pitch India is going to prepare, because bear in mind, as much as West Indies haven't had much preparation for this series, well, red ball wise, we've been playing CPL out here. India have been in the Asia Cup playing T20 cricket, so a lot of their players haven't had that much experience, although they're coming off the back of the England series in July, that 2-2. And we saw the quality they had there, even without Bumrah in the side, what the bowling attack can do with like a Mohammad Siraj, and then the batting lineup. So this is my main worry. For me, bowling, I think Warrican, Pierre, Seals, Shamar Joseph can do the job. They can get 20 wickets. For me, the worry is how much will India score, because India, Shubman Gill, Rishabh Pant, Jaiswal, really good world-class batters, big fans of them. if they post even a 300, which by their standards wouldn't be high, but let's say they got 300 all out, our bowlers did exceptionally well, took them out. What is our batting lineup going to do? Because for me, if I'm looking at a John Campbell, Tagenarine Chanderpaul, Alec Afanase, Brandon King, Shai Hope, top 5, are we going to get to 200? That's the thing. So for me, it's a big concern how we're going to put runs together. The bowling, as with ever West Indies cricket, not a massive concern to me. But it's just that batting lineup. So big things ahead. For me, it's not this will be not even a long one, because for me, it's not even that controversial. Like the squad is generally, by and large, the squad that went to Australia, that played Australia. And so there's a few changes. Carey Pierre, like I said, is a logical pick. And then anyone else is, I'm just looking for it now. Yeah, Carey Pierre is a logical pick. Gudakesh Moti would seem to be questionable sort of decision to rest him. I'm slightly surprised Mikhail Louis has been dropped for Tagenarine Chanderpaul. But again, when we've got so few openers in the region, I mean, Amir Jangu's opening in CPL. I mean, we know he can play spin well. Was it not worth picking at Amir Jangu as well, just because of the fact he's played a lot of cricket? Interesting decision to go with Tagenarine Chanderpaul. And that's me saying it as a Guyanese. I just think, what are we doing sending Tagenarine Chanderpaul, playing only 3 professional games this year, sending them out to India in October for 2 tests? And nothing else really. Anderson Phillip will obviously be the backup bowler. As I said, Tevin Imlak will be there as the backup wicket keeper, and then Kevlon Anderson or Alec Afanase will be the spare batter. So overall, not a massive controversial. There was no left field picks really that completely shocked me. My prediction is still 2-0 India. I don't think we'll be seeing a miracle in Multan. I think India have a lot. They're one of the world's best side. We saw that what they did away in England. I just don't think they're going to let up. With World Test Championship points on the line, I don't think they're going to let up against West Indies. The final talking point is Craig Brathwaite. So obviously reports in the region that he didn't get offered a West Indies contract, and this sort of seems to validate. I mean, the contract situation hasn't been announced by Cricket West Indies, but the fact he's not even in their squad says a lot. It means, I imagine, he's not been given a contract. The question is, I know he's playing club cricket for Wanderers, I think, in Barbados. How is he going to get back into the West Indies side? Does he have to wait essentially till February, March next year, regional season, put together runs? It's a long wait. Is he going to do that? Does he want to get back into the West Indies side? A lot of questions about Craig Brathwaite, but it is unusual to see a press release with a test squad, probably for the first time in 10 years, not contain Craig Brathwaite, unless it was for injury. So an unusual one, but not surprising. And I'd imagine, Kemar Roach as well will probably get an announcement about whether he's retired or not, because he hasn't featured in recent tests for West Indies. He was given a player-coach contract last year. You'd imagine this year it might transition to a coach contract, or he might not even got a contract. So when the contracts come out, I'm sure we'll do a video on that. But that will indicate a lot about where West Indies are heading going forward. And it's interesting, in the press release, it was highlighted that this squad was deliberately picked, because of not only of the skill set, but also the long-term development of the test side. So it sounds like they're obviously going for what youth men in West Indies terms, 25, 26, 27-year-olds, to try and build for the next 5 years under Sammy's sort of vision. So there we go. End of the episode. I tried to keep it under 20 minutes. I'm sure me and Mash will do a bigger deep dive, but I just wanted to give an instant reaction to the India squad. As I said, like, comment, share, subscribe. You got the solo Santokie episode for the year. I'll see you next year with a solo episode. Comment below. What do you think about the squad selection? Anyone you would have picked? Any sort of glaring omissions? Have I missed out? Anything? What is your overall take, and how do you think we're going to perform in India? As always, Caribbean Cricket Podcast, #1 for news. Follow us, on all social media platforms, and I'm sure the content will come quick and come fast and furious. We've even got next week. We've got the 3 T20s against Nepal. They haven't even announced that squad. This test squad flies out on the 22nd of September, so none of these players, as we've predicted, will be playing in that Nepal series. So you'd imagine it'd be a young experimental squad. Well, it has to be. So we'll do a video as well reacting to that squad announcement in the coming days. Also, for anyone saying I talk too fast, I know the last solo episode I did, everyone was like, right, you talk too fast, Santokie. Listen, when you're from South London, if you're a real South London man, you talk like you're in a rush. You got no time to waste. You're out here just talking fast. So, I'm not talking fast. You're just listening slow, in the words of Lil Wayne. So, thank you, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good night. I'll catch you very soon. Now, let's see if I can get this outro to work.
West Indies Cricket, Caribbean Cricket Podcast. Indies Cricket, Caribbean Cricket Podcast. West Indies Cricket.